So it's been a while since we got that action-packed trailer for Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2, and while we're yet to see a full marketing campaign ramp up for what's in store, what we have seen has been nothing short of stunning. We got a trailer that highlights the greater emphasis on war with the second film, yet one that also promises greater world building, new characters, and climactic storytelling fulfillment. Having read the book, there's a lot of story elements that get me really excited to see this second part, and I think as a whole, if Villeneuve does execute it right, it could be even better than part 1. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing the reasons why I think Dune Part 2 will surpass the heights of the first film, both in its storytelling and in its filmmaking. There will be spoilers from the Dune book in this upload, so if you haven't read it yet, then I'd recommend watching one of my other videos, which includes breakdowns of the trailers and updates on the film's production. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my upcoming content surrounding Dune Part 2 and beyond, then don't forget to support this video by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. But without further ado, let's dive into why Dune Part 2 can be better than Part 1. So since the announcement of Dune Part 2, we've heard nothing but excitement surrounding the project from both the cast and the filmmaker behind it. They've promised a sequel that can live up to and surpass the heights of the first film, and one that can really deliver on everything that has been set up. Denis Villeneuve has said multiple times that the second film will be more action-packed, more fun, but primarily one that capitalizes on what was established while retaining the detail that this sci-fi world initially offered. Denis said, "Part 2 will be such a cinematic treat. Making Part 1 was setting the table, and Part 2 will be the full course meal." He's given us the setup through the cultures and the background of all the planets and civilizations, and now in his words, Part 2 will be just an amazing playground. It will be so fun to do. And when it comes to the cast, Rebecca Ferguson, who plays Lady Jessica in the Dune universe, gave her opinion on Part 2 a couple of months ago too, saying, "I'm gonna say Part 2 is better than Part 1. And that's without seeing it. That is me saying it based on what I've read, what I've seen, what I've filmed. I think it's going to be better." Dave Bautista further mentioned that the sequel is more amped up than the first outing, and said, "There's just so much going on, it's so much more cutthroat and political and intense." Now this is from the people involved, and while of course they are going to hype up and share excitement for the film they're in, the enthusiasm across the board makes me as excited as I've been for a franchise sequel in years. It reminds me of the anticipation for the Lord of the Rings sequels or The Dark Knight, where everyone on production and around it trust in the vision of the adaptation, the director, and the potential it has to go one better. And while we have that faith, actually seeing the footage revealed in the recent trailers and everything they've currently showed us raises that hype to another level. In fact, the last trailer for Dune Part 2 is one of the best trailers I've seen this year, and I think it indicates that we can expect to see an even bigger and more impactful film in that second part. Now, you know that I think Part 1 of Dune is a great film that really stands on its own as a moment of character adaptation when it comes to Paul Atreides. It's a film about Paul adapting to the deep desert, and in the process of finding the Fremen, he starts to become Paul Muad'Dib. Yes, it is set up for Part 2, just like, say, Fellowship of the Ring was for the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but it was also a singular film telling the first part of a huge story with so much events to fit into a full adaptation. It was impressive in its own right, but we of course are just touching on the deeper story that's to come in the follow-up. The journey was never complete in A New Hope or The Fellowship of the Ring. It was built upon, and it gave us reveals, more context, and a deeper exploration into the worlds and characters. And that's where I come to the potential for Part 2 to really deliver on the idea of thematic power in cinematic storytelling. For one, the thematic power of Dune Part 2 can subvert the traditional nature of a fantasy or sci-fi, doing so through the way it ends its story. While Denis has planned to make a third film with Frank Herbert's Dune Messiah, the end of Part 2, or the end of the original Dune book, is one that leaves much darker suggestions about where things are going. After Paul and Chani's child dies around the events of the Battle of Arrakis, it sets up a turning point for Paul, a moment where he changes from being someone who wants to stop a holy war into the person who wants to destroy everything. Part 2 will tackle the theme of new rulers that can become fearful, and when we think of Paul Atreides, we will understand how that is formed through a sense of revenge. By tackling this very powerful idea, Part 2 has the chance to leave its stamp on the genre in a completely new way. Although Denis has said that the film will be an opportunity to have much more fun, the truth is the events of the sequel differ. It isn't really about Paul's ascendancy to the role of a mythical hero, but rather his path to becoming a universal ruler with a distrustful view of faith and power. Yes, he's more respectable than, say, Christopher Walken's Emperor, but his decision to start a huge war of revenge against his enemies is one that starts a chain of destructive events. While Paul will sit on the throne by the end of Part 2, if it is adapted right, we shouldn't be left feeling happy. And this is not how the traditional mythic hero is treated in big sci-fi or fantasy sagas, making it have the potential to really stand on its own. It could become another Empire Strikes Back, but in its own new way for the Dune universe. Moving on, the next thing that really excites me about the second film of Villeneuve's potential Dune trilogy is how the introduction of new characters and locations can really elevate things from the perspective of world building. Part 1 did introduce the factions and mysteries that will be explored and fully realised in Part 2, but if you know the source material, there are extended possibilities with the cultures and planets that we are going to get more of. After Part 1, Denis Villeneuve can now really dig deep into making something even greater with the foundations in place after the first film, and that is very exciting to think about, especially if you know where this story is going. For one, the introduction of Paul's sister Elia Atreides is going to really shake the foundations. If a knife-wielding baby that can talk and one that is born with intergenerational memories isn't something that creates a rift, then I don't know what is. And we know that Denis doesn't like to use that much CGI, so like with how he approached the designs and characters in Part 1, we'd expect some mind-boggling effects and practical techniques used to bring a character to life like this. In Part 1, Paul only knows that his mother is pregnant, and in Part 2, the birth of Elia really causes a disturbance and becomes very important in regards to the choice of regent for the Atreides Empire. So visually, thematically, and narratively, Elia is already a game-changing character that, if done right, will have long-lasting effects on screen. On top of this, Denis has promised that we're going to get a lot more from the perspective of the Harkonnens in Dune Part 2, whether it be returning characters, new ones, or their homeworlds. As already seen in the trailer, we've had visually stunning footage of Gadi Prime, the fighting pits there, the Emperor's homeworld, and anticipated new figures in Austin Butler's Feyd-Rautha and Christopher Walken's Emperor. Successful trilogies or franchises find a way in sequels to widen the world building with new elements, but at the same time balance them all in one story. If you have a lot of things to juggle and they don't feel seamless, then things can become disjointed or forgettable. And while this could happen with Part 2, Denis already has all the material at hand to make a good adaptation, and after Part 1, I think most of us trust his approach in bringing that material to the big screen. So if anything, these new characters and world worlds present an opportunity to make the Dune universe that much more enriching. And if we consider Fade and the Emperor, for instance, they are characters that raise the central threat, but also fuel the retaliation of Paul and the Fremen at the end of the story in crucial ways. Another thing that really gets me feeling that Part 2 can go beyond the first film is of course in the filmmaking involved and how Denis and his team are striving to give us a more epic film this time around. The trailer already shows off stunning filmmaking and visual effects that demand more than what Part 1 did, as you have to combine atmospheric world building with large-scale execution. We have moments in the book where multiple sandworms will be on screen at once, sandworm riding, battle scenes with thousands of Fremen, Harkonnen and Sardaukar at war, and even more psychedelic moments like the Water of Life scene, which demand narratively impactful visuals. Again, while there are so many ways that this can go wrong, it's key to note that Villeneuve has already overcome tough obstacles with the first film, whether it be introducing hard to adapt elements, or as a whole, just merging the more artistic film with the blockbuster for denser material. With the approach to filming a Dune movie already set in stone, it takes a weight off his shoulder, and the people working on the film in all departments can bring Part 2 to screen in the most epic fashion possible. In fact, Part 2 is being described as more of a war film, one that could recreate the epic heights and detail of the Lord of the Rings battles. Doing this in the Dune sense can really give us what we envisioned, with desperate, epic and hardcore battles that fall more in line with Helm's Deep than they do with traditional action battles in modern blockbusters. Audiences are craving for this at the minute, and when thinking about the production team's approach to Dune, it makes the idea of this sound even more exciting. In Part 1, we saw that they went the extra mile to capture the alien sounds of Arrakis, build sets using sand screens to get the lighting right, and film in the actual desert with scorching heat. In Part 2, they've already committed to expand on the fighting styles of the different factions and building out actual practical sandworm surfaces for riders to film scenes on. So already we've got an idea that they are going to be doing things in an even more extreme way to make this look and sound real for the audience. And couple that with a bigger sense of war surrounding the climactic events of Part 2, and we can expect it to be much bigger, yet still rich in detail. Overall, I think Dune is in touch with a cinematic experience, one that calls for a sublime presentation of the visual, the sound, and storytelling through that. Part 1 pulled this off brilliantly, and I've talked plenty about this very point in many other videos. But Part 2 will have the chance to expand and deliver on expectations to give us a more explosive, yet still artsy sequel. The world and the characters have been introduced, the ideals have been set, the filmmaking is strikingly bold, and now all of that can be pushed even further by Villeneuve through the structure he has so fittingly laid out. It's incredible that audiences today saw a film like Dune, which is tragic, brutally serious for blockbuster sci-fi, and are excited for a Part 2. And maybe it's because they want more films like this. Essentially, blockbusters that aren't afraid to take things and present them through grand and unique filmmaking in a different way from the norm. It shows that audiences can be more open to complex event films around the central characters. It's great for the franchise in the long run, and as Dune is about to get darker and crazier, there's a potential for bigger things with each project. For me, it's a new staple of franchises for today, an alternative saga to the plethora of cliche ones filling the market, and I think we need more of it going forward. Clearly, audiences want more too, and based on everything set up and everything we've seen for Part 2, I'm hopeful that it can be better than what we got with Part 1. But that was my video discussing my thoughts on why Dune Part 2 can be better than the original film. With lots of insane story beats, characters and lore to explore in the second part of Frank Herbert's novel, alongside the urge from Denis Villeneuve and his team to raise the bar in sci-fi filmmaking on a repeating basis, Dune Part 2 is the kind of film that has been set up to be huge within the blockbuster landscape. The second film will only grow on the box office office numbers attained by Part 1 releasing in a theatrical-only environment, which will only benefit the franchise going forwards. Part 2 will have the word of mouth from the first film, with awards and hugely positive responses going for it too, so the Dune saga will likely only be a riding success with more installments, as long as it doesn't drop the ball in quality. But the current track record of director Denis Villeneuve and the people he works with speaks for itself, and right now we can only expect another great film that pushes the boundaries of what is possible in science fiction filmmaking. We'll have to see, but I think all of these elements combined make Dune Part 2 a film that is set up to be a groundbreaking one if it's all delivered on. But let me know down below in the comment section whether you're currently excited for Part 2 and if you think it can be better than Part 1. For much more videos and news on Denis Villeneuve's Dune universe, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.